This podcast contains discussions of violent content that may be disturbing or triggering to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are for informational and entertainment purposes only and do not reflect those of the podcast creators. If you or someone you know is struggling, please seek help from a trusted professional or resource. This episode is made possible by listeners like you. Your support means everything. Thank you for tuning in.
Prepare for warp speed as we embark on a voyage through the vast expanse of science fiction in movies and television series. From distant planets to alien civilizations, we delve into the heart of the unknown, unraveling the tales that have captivated audiences for generations. Get ready to unlock the secrets of the universe on CodeFlix.
Greetings, fellow sci-fi and fantasy lovers. Welcome to CodeFlix, where we explore the TV shows and movies that shape our imaginations. I'm Andre Bonner, and in today's episode, we're back at the From series, picking up where we left off, going deeper into the darkness of the unknown. As I mentioned before, I was instantly hooked on the series From. And when I found out a new season was dropping in 2024, I was all in. You better believe I cleared my schedule to catch every new episode the moment it aired each week. This season dives even deeper into the eerie mystery of the town, unraveling twisted secrets and strange phenomena that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. Just when you think you've figured out something, boom, another mind bending twist drops. The stakes are higher, the horrors are darker, and there's a more bigger mystery lurking beneath it all. If you're into shows that keep you on the edge of your seat with every cryptic clue and haunting reveal, then trust me, you need to stick around for this one. Let's get into it.
Season 3 of From intensifies the mystery and horror surrounding the trapped residents of Fromville, delving deeper into the town's dark secrets and the enigmatic forces at play. The season is marked by escalating supernatural phenomena, personal tragedies, and revelations that challenge the characters' understanding of their reality. Key tropes in from Season 3. The inescapable town. The central mystery persists. Residents are trapped in a town with no apparent exit, deepening the psychological horror. Supernatural entities. Nightmarish creatures continue to haunt the town, their origins and motives remaining elusive. Time loops and reincarnation. Characters confront the possibility of being caught in a cyclical existence, with hints at past lives influencing current events. Unreliable reality. The fabric of reality is questioned as characters experience hallucinations and shifting perceptions, blurring the line between what's real and imagined. The Man in Yellow. A mysterious figure whose actions suggest a deeper connection to the town's secrets and the fate of its residents. Family bonds tested. Families, like the Matthews, face internal strife and external threats, challenging their unity and resilience. Moral ambiguity. Characters grapple with difficult choices, often blurring the lines between right and wrong in their fight for survival. Hidden agendas. Trust is scarce as alliances shift and hidden motives come to light, adding layers of intrigue. Psychological trauma. The mental toll of the town's horrors manifests in various ways, affecting decision-making and relationships. Search for meaning. Amid chaos, characters seek purpose and understanding, driving them to uncover the town's mysteries. Season 3 delves deeper into the enigmatic nature of the town, exploring themes of identity, reality, and survival. The introduction of new characters and revelations keeps the narrative fresh, maintaining the show's suspenseful allure. Here are some themes and symbols in from Season 3. Themes: cycles of memory and reincarnation. Season 3 introduces the concept of characters being reincarnated versions of past inhabitants. Tabitha and Jade are revealed to be reincarnations of Miranda and Christopher, respectively, suggesting a cyclical nature to the town's mysteries and the idea that the past continually influences the present. The burden of knowledge. The season emphasizes that acquiring knowledge comes with consequences. The man in yellow warns that knowledge comes at a cost, highlighting the dangers of uncovering hidden truths within the town. Isolation and survival. As the town faces harsher conditions, with colder weather and scarce resources, the residents grapple with the challenges of survival. This theme underscores the physical and emotional isolation experienced by the characters. The power of symbols and language. The mysterious word angui, repeatedly uttered by the ghostly children, is revealed to mean remember. This emphasizes the importance of memory and the influence of the past on the present. Symbols. The symbol. A recurring emblem seen by characters like Jade and Christopher. The symbol is associated with impending calamity and serves as a harbinger of significant events within the town. The man in yellow. This enigmatic figure represents a powerful and sinister force distinct from the town's creatures. His actions, including the killing of Jim, underscore the theme that certain knowledge is dangerous and that some truths are protected by formidable entities. Talisman symbols and compass directions. Promotional materials for Season 3 feature compass directions and talisman symbols, suggesting themes of guidance, introspection, and the cyclical nature of time and events within the town. The word angui. This term, meaning remember, symbolizes the significance of memory and the necessity of recalling past events to understand and possibly escape the town's mysteries. Conclusion. Season 3 of From deepens the series' exploration of memory, identity, and the cyclical nature of time. Through the introduction of reincarnation, the dangers of forbidden knowledge, and the use of potent symbols, the season underscores the idea that understanding the past is crucial to confronting the present. The town remains a place where the boundaries between reality and the supernatural blur, and where every revelation brings both answers and new questions.
So this season 3, episode 1 episode starts with us being introduced or reintroduced to the fact that Ethan's mother is no longer in the town of From, and she finds herself back in reality, apparent reality. She took it upon herself to leave the hospital because police want to ask her questions because the circumstances around him finding her seems to be weird, and police would have definitely want to step in on that. Then back in From now, we find that Sheriff Boyd has his hands full because, for one, people are getting really scared and panicky after all they've been through so far. Who to blame them, right? And then, on top of their troubles, their food supply is poisoned, right? And taken out, basically. So they don't have much food supply. So them turn on Kenny's mother, who would have had some food stock up because, she run the diner, basically. And them get stuff from her. And they were trying to take the animals. Persons were trying to take the animals. And of course, Sheriff Boyd step in and say, no, we can't take the animals then because we still don't know how long all of this is going to last. So we need to try and make it last as long as possible. He gave a nice speech and everything, and they returned the animal with them. They go try tech and so on. Ethan's father and Kenny, they went on their own adventure. They went out into the woods to see if they could find Ethan's mother because she hasn't been back, obviously. And while out there, they found some head on pikes, basically. Some so some of them shrunken heads on pike kind of thing. And they follow them out to where they see some huts that are constructed out of logs and so on, and they decide to make camp there. While in the camp, they did hear some rustling in the night, and I think at that point, Ethan's father come to him senses and say, you know what, really and truly, we know I'm wife, leave us. So, me don't really need for be the next one for leave my kids. So, let me stay for the kids. My wife has already left. I don't know what he's expecting. He sound like him plan for go back in the morning. Then back in the town now, just as I expected, I friggin' suspected what would happen. The monsters, they came out, and they released the animals into the streets. Sheriff Boyd now, she said this are going on, and him say, all right, I'm gonna try and see if him can get the animals them back into the barn and, let them in and so on. And obviously that was a stupid idea because the monsters seem to have planned for him. And him and Kenny's mother was in the barn at the time, and they basically torture killed her. We don't see it. It happens off screen, but we see the reaction from Sheriff Boyd's perspective that it wasn't nice, right? And then basically tell him, so listen, you thought this town couldn't break you? Let's see how much we can break you now. Yeah. So the episode pretty much ends like that, of course, always on a cliffhanger, making you hunger for the next episode. And at this point in time, the next episode for me will be next week. It's gonna be a long week. Yeah, I'm both terrified and excited at the same time. I can't believe From is back, and already I'm feeling like it's going to be even more crazy because things are changing and the reaction of the town people and everybody is going to be amped up even more. I mean, they were almost on the brink before, but this seems like it's going to set them even more. I would love to see more of what happens with Ethan's mother. Oh, forgot to mention that she ends up going to Victor's home. After she talked to a priest and thing, because she'd go there for confess, but then she figure out so she can go to Victor's house because Victor's lunchbox has information in it, his address, and she proceeds to go there. And when she reaches there, lucky enough, at the same point in time, apparently his father comes home and sees her. And the reaction of her father seems kind of weird. And I'm guessing that's, the father's not particularly unused to people just showing up at his house for weird reasons. Because he's like, get off my lawn, like, I don't know why you come here. Like, it's like him, some crazy person. So, and when she started talking about Victor now, he seems to be like, what? How how you have him lunchbox? It's like a whole heap of questions he has for her now. So, yeah, I'm hoping that episode 2 at least starts to give us a little bit more answers where that is concerned. And I don't know how Boyd I'll go break it to him, Deputy Kenny. That is a seconds money where get killed on the boy's watch for Kenny. And yeah, I don't know. Episode 2. So, in the town from, a whole heap of things happening because based on what happened in the other episode, the first episode, Boyd is reeling from the loss of Tian Chen, who is Kenny's mother. And as I explained before, it was very difficult for him to come to grips to it. In some ways, he feels as if it is his fault, especially because the creatures have basically have him alive while watching as they took her apart, right? So in this episode of would have seen where Tabitha would have woken up because she fainted in front of Victor's father, right? And so he took her inside and put her on the couch. So she woke up and she was trying to explain where she was coming from and what, why she was led there. And he wasn't really believing much of her story, right? So he said that he called the cops, right? When the cops got there, he decided not to have the cops take her because some part of the story made some sense to him, at least for the time being. And so he would have, uh, he would have basically been kind of been between because he wasn't sure. She was telling him about some of the other families and other persons who are missing. He looked those up and he realized that most of the persons she was telling them about were actually reported missing. And, it kind of made sense to him there. So he decided to show her something, right? And something that he was showing her was Victor and his sister's room, right? So his children's room. So she asked him, why you really are showing me this? And he's basically, him just saying that, why if you understand, say, you just kind of gave me a little hope here in terms of you're telling me that Victor is alive. Just make sure you say, bullshit me. And she said, no, I'm not. I really not bullshit you. And this is basically around the end of the episode now. She would have said to him, he would have said to her, we know why you're here. Basically, you are here for what is in the basement. Yeah. And so he takes her to the basement and he shows her because his wife started to see some things, especially about From. And his wife believed that she was chosen. And she also believed that there were other persons who were chosen before her. So he believes now that she's one of the chosen people because she's seen the kids that she says she sees in the tower that she has to save. And Tabitha, at that same time, Tabitha would have been looking around the basement and him showing her all of the drawings that his wife would have made. And there were, those of them that just look just like even in the opening sequence of From, you'd have seen some of these paintings, even with the boy in white and all of that. Yeah. So yeah, it was meta. That whole part of the episode was meta. All right. So going back to the beginning of the episode in From now. So they decide now that they're gonna bury Tien Chen because, you know, it would be right for her, I mean, to go out like that and they not bury her properly. So essentially they, you know, decide to bury her. When Kenny and Jim comes back to the town, because they have good news. They woke up the morning and Jim found some patches of vegetables that were fresh along a stream near to us to a river, basically. So
No, no. They just found it and they were very excited. Kenny was very excited. He came back to the town very excited, not knowing what happened. And everybody was looking around and he's like, what's happening? And Jimmy's like, where's my kids? Him say it to Boyd and Boyd is like, they're fine, Jim. And so when Kenny hear that, of course, Kenny knows that if I'm not feeding them, then it must be mom. So he don't want to hear from nobody. Everybody I say, Kenny listen? And he's like, no, no, ma. And he calls out to his mother because he's right beside of the house. And he call out to his mother and now hear her respond. And he storms off without anybody saying anything to him. So apparently he realizes he went to the diner actually. Christy followed him to the diner and, you know, she just kept quiet and hear him talking about, some stuff, that his mother would have said to him, just kind of reminiscing. And he sits down there, contemplating, you know, that this, can't be real. It's almost like it is surreal to him. And being someone that has lost a parent, in a gruesome manner, I know how hard it can be. So even that part of it got me in my feelings. So after that, Christy leaves him by himself because he said to Christy, the last thing he said to her before she left was just make sure that she's looking all right, for her burial because he really want to remember her like I remember his father. And we would have remembered that back in season one, yeah, in season one, he would have lost his father because, you know, the same creature them they come in the the clinic and gruesomely kill him. Yeah. And so he basically doesn't want that to happen. So he tell Christy and Christy went and made sure that that was done. She went and she prepared the mother's body with the help of Jade, right? So you remember Jade. Jade, you know, helped Boyd to carry Tien Chen's body to the church. And after that, he's there waiting, just looking on Tien Chen because she was like a motherly figure to Jade. That's how they kind of bonded around in season two, I believe. And so, she kind of gave him hope, or kind of put him on a path, give him a purpose. And so, he's like his mother too. So even for him, it was hard. Not as hard as how Kenny is handling it, but, you know, just having that, really sends a message that, things in Fram are changing. So, of course, they got the body ready and Kenny, who would have been very angry, especially because while he was in the diner, after Christy left him by himself, something weird happened. The radio that is in the diner that usually comes on at a certain time in the evenings, like at dawn, at dark, it start play celebrate as if to mock Kenny. So Kenny got very angry, and that set him on the path of he wanting to destroy, them, get, revenge on them. So that is what he planned to do. Sheriff Boyd now came in now and say, "Me understand where I got you. I mean, I'll stop you. Let's do this together." And them set out to do that. Yeah, set out to go and do it. And while they were off planning to murder these creatures and stuff and whatever, Sheriff Boyd basically let slip that he was there because Kenya wonder if she was by herself. That why this happened because probably Kenny was blaming himself to say him gone off and leave him mother, and then this happened to him mother. But then he realized that Boyd was there and Boyd was the last one there. So you know it kind of upset, but at the same time hearing that her last words from Boyd, was for Boyd to take care of him, to make sure say him all right. And just the words that he needed in Cantonese. And even Boyd didn't even understand until Kenny translated. Yeah. They had a nice little ceremony, when they got back to the town, Clark anyway, and we saw his mother looking nicely dressed and makeup and stuff. And they had a nice little ceremony with everybody there. And this was at the same time at the ending where I spoke earlier about Tabitha and Victor's mother down in the basement. So while he was talking about all of the things that the wife had saw, we saw the images of from and the funeral service basically. Yeah. Everybody was taking it very, very hard and thing. Another point to note in the episode was also that Fatima, she not do so well from episode one when we realized that. But even worse, we realized that she's not eating and she has a baby on the way, and our, she needed some help because they had to take her to see Marcel, who would have been Christie's lover, partner, and she has to be eating and stuff, so they have to find some way to get her eating. So, but the craziest part about this whole part there was that after she left and she was alone, she saw the rotten fruits, right? The fruits that they were throwing out because it got rotten, right? And she was drawn to the fruits. And can you believe that she ate the fruits and she was not sick? So I don't know what the heck is going on in from. All right. This episode, I mean, even more questions than answers are here. Episode 3. So Tabitha and Victor's father, they decide now that they're going to go on a trip. And this would have been because Tabitha heard some bottles on the tree, which, if you remember from season 1 and 2, the bottles on the tree, represented in from where, some weird stuff, you would hear whispers from them. So Tabitha heard the bottles from inside of the house, right? Victor's father mentioned that his wife was the one who did those, put the bottles up in the trees. And that's probably because of what she saw, or been seen in from. So he decides to take her to where the original tree is located in a park, right? Across town. Yeah. On their way there, however, they meet into an accident and Tabitha awakens in a ambulance that is supposed to be taking both of them to the hospital. Just as she's, being told that they're being taken to a hospital, the EMT driver, he says, oh my gosh. And he said, there's a tree in the road. So we all know what that means, right? If you've been following this TV show, you know that once you see the tree in the road, you're in from. So Tabitha is back in from, right? And that's how the episode would have ended. Now, let's go back to the beginning and talk about what happened in from, right? So in from, Sheriff Boyd was talking to his son about the idea that he has in order to gather more intelligence. He's trying to strike back at the town, the creatures, by catching one of the creatures alive and probably interrogating it, or I don't know what he's planning to do, because he doesn't even know exactly how he's going to get it done. And Donna basically tell him, say, listen, we understand, say you want to get blood, you're out for blood now, but hey, you need to think this through clearly. You have to have a better plan and you need to think fast, right? All right. So Kenny and a few other persons from the town, including Jade and Christy, went out back to where Jim and him found the vegetables, the fresh vegetables, to gather other vegetables and food so that the town can stop living on rations, right? While out there, Jade sees a strange man with a dagger or a knife, I don't know, in his eyeball on a tree, right? And he approaches it, and the man, you know, grab him and think, quite scary stuff happening there. And it appears to be another hallucination or dream or waking nightmare, whatever you want to call it. One of the persons who had come with them sees him and, realizes that was happening. So he gets startled after that and he decides him not stay. Him want to go back to the town and thing. And Christy goes after him, trying to stop him, and she gets caught in a trap. One of those traps that they have laid out in the woods for like creatures, it's one of those traps that snaps onto the leg of the creature and whatever. So it snaps onto her leg, digging into her foot. And that's Jade and Kenny, and the other person with them had to basically set her free, help to set her free and thing. But the strangest thing is that while them trying to set her free, Jade sees the man again, and the man appears to be drinking from a skull. Right? Yeah. So that's, crazy thing happening there. Some other things to note is that Jim's son, he, has lost hope in finding his mom, and he would have said it to Jim. He was like, we know mom ain't coming back, right? We just need to find her body, to confirm that, she ain't coming back, right? Uh, he's having a rough time, apparently. There was a point in time where Victor dug up something that obviously he would have planted, or buried, and he takes it to where Sarah is, and he told her that he's gonna tell her a story. So we have that to look forward to. Yeah. And Fatima, don't know if I mentioned this, she would have eaten the rotten fruit, and she is continuing to eat the rotten fruit. And Tilly, that weird old lady, the batty old lady, she confides in her because she saw her, and Tilly tries to help by giving her some words of wisdom and sharing her own story of her pregnancy and what she's going through and all of that. Yeah. Oh yeah, and Sheriff Boyd sees his friend again, Dr. Khatri again. Time to time, he keeps seeing him, and I'm wondering if it's also related to what's going on in From. Yeah, so many questions. I tell you, this series just has me. Yeah, so looking forward to seeing what the other episode is about, and seeing how certain things play out, especially now that Tabitha is back in From. And I'm hoping that she's in the same From, because it's possible that she might not be in the same place, but then again, yeah, she might be. Yeah, and I'm hoping that she gets back there, so at least, you know, she can relate, to them that, hey, she tried to escape, and perhaps she never left, and her suspicions might be confirmed at some point that she was there, even though she ended up in a hospital and then tell her, then find, people find her or whatever. Perhaps that was a part of From kind of playing some trick on her, you know. Yeah. But I'm giving theories here, but hey, this is just the analysis based on what I, you know, basically would have watched. Yeah, crazy stuff. So, episode 4. Can I tell you? this episode follows up on the fact that Tabitha is now back in From. She, along with the paramedics and Victor's father, arrived there. Unfortunately, of course, From is not forgiving to persons who are new to the town, and they did come at night, right? They ended up coming there, end up there at night. Jim's son would have gotten a message from Thomas, his brother, on the phone. The voice that says it's called Thomas, that your mother reached back in her From, so you need to make sure she's all right. So him tell him father, and that night they went out there, and I think Sheriff Boyd and Randall were in the bus at the time, and they realized that the ambulance came by and they tried to stop it, but yeah. So after the two paramedics got killed, one of the a police officer that was there with them, she start run because she don't know what go on with all of the things that are going on. Tabitha had tried to warn them to stay inside of the ambulance, but yeah. Anyways, Jim come and rescue his wife. Randall got killed. Well, he seemed to be killed because at the end of the episode, him did kind of look like him alive. So I don't know. The monsters them do something to him. So I don't know if he's dead yet. So yeah, I'd have to watch episode 4. Right. So Donna and Sheriff Boyd have a drink, and they were, basically them down the deep end, basically, because things just keep happening, and these things that are happening now are getting crazier and crazier. Of course, Victor would have told, what's your name again, say, I'm not gonna talk to her and tell her a story, build a fort and tell her a story. And he's basically telling her a story of what happened, at the time when all of the persons in the town would have been killed off. That was when he was a boy. And he relayed a story about a particular resident that was almost like a, life of the party. He's a ventriloquist. Him have a doll, and apparently, yeah, him did start see things, or probably because it looks like this is from Victor's perspective, he saw the doll talking to the man. Like the doll was sitting far away from the man, so not like he was controlling the puppet, and the puppet was talking back to the man. Anyways, nothing surprises you in From at this point, right? So, yeah, that ain't so crazy or surprising to that. Yeah. So, the other thing that happened in the episode was, Fatima's appetite has definitely changed. Yeah, she is now in a corpse's blood. Yeah, she was, is a friend of hers, got shot, and she died, and now she's in the corpse of her friend, fingering it out and licking her fingers, like when time, a little cream gets on your finger or something sweet and nice. Ugh. I'm sorry for the visual there, but I'm telling you that this episode is even more crazy. And I feel like, in anticipation of episode 4, I have to give another warning. I've given these warnings before that these are graphic stuff, and I think it's going to even get more graphic with what's going on. Yeah. So yeah, that is basically it for episode 4. We'll be right back after these messages. Content warning. This episode includes detailed discussions of violence. We strive to handle these topics with care,
but some content may be upsetting to certain audiences. Listener discretion is advised. If you enjoy this podcast and want to help it grow, I'd love your support. Since it's not monetized, my main goal is to connect with more listeners who share a passion for sci-fi. Please share the podcast with friends or colleagues who might enjoy it. And don't forget to leave a comment. Your support and feedback makes a big difference, and keep the content coming. Episode 5. So, after the occurrences of the last episode, Randall is now brought inside Colony House, and him start to cuss out Boyd because Boyd leave him to die. But he had no choice, really, as we saw that the creatures, they wanted him for something, right? And it is very weird that the fact that Randall is alive, after being attacked by the creatures, yeah, that's weird. There must be a significance to this now, right? Yeah, so Kenny's group now, them return now following the events, and in the morning now. And Christy has taken over the clinic to recover. Christy, have to recover alongside Randall after what she went through. Victor becomes increasingly distressed after Donna tell him say that his father, was there, and that she basically takes him to the room, right? So she take the father Henry to the room. Now them call a town meeting, right? And in the diner with all of most of the townspeople them, right? They'll get return against Boyd, right? Quick way. And demand to be taken to the battle tree, right? Because they want to see where it is that Tabitha went, and why is it that she just come back just so without, being able to help them in any sort of way. So them have some serious questions, right? Acosta, the new girl, she later apologized now to Boyd, for how she, she do her thing. But she said, boy, it might have made things worse. Now, Elgin start to tell Julie about him vision of the kimono woman, and, him find the Polaroid camera. Ellis now, he would catch in woman and eat the rotten vegetable, rotten food, what I'm saying? And she admits that something, off, something wrong with the baby. You know what I'm saying? Not like, oh boy, this baby, something is wrong with the baby, and, I feel a way about it or whatever. But you feel something is definitely not good about this baby. That's the kind of vibe she giving. So, father and son, Victor and Henry, they finally get to see each other, and they basically have a tear fest, weeping and crying out their eyes, after being apart for 40 odd years. Now, Tabitha and Jade, them discuss the visions that they had of the children, at the battle tree, and then they'll now arrive and if just go inside, right? Disregard their warning, decide say him and go get out and so on. Yeah. So he goes inside, and despite, wanting the best to happen, and you're hoping that, stuff would go on good for them for once, Dale gets teleported inside the walls of an empty pool. And of course, he dies. Yeah. And this would have pushed Boyd over the edge that, basically it was like a moment of, I told you guys, I told the townspeople, I told you this is why you don't just go off half-cocked, without a plan, without a strategy, without, because you don't know what is waiting, what this town, this place, wherever it is out to do. What's the next step? Episode 6. So Jim and Tabitha, them would have been arguing about the decisions in arriving to the township. And, basically Jim just get upset and say, you know what, me I gotta just leave. I don't want to be alone. The ambulance, them empty out it of all of the medical supplies and then bring it into the clinic. They would have gotten a portable ultrasound machine as well. Marielle basically can be able to do some more work on Randall's bandages, and she basically that try to get him to stay, and because they haven't really been able to talk about what happened to them because they had that collective experience. And I think this was a way of them trying to, of her trying to connect. But, Christy doesn't want to live alone, right? Now, Ellis confided in Abide, say, have some concerns about Fatima, and, then basically have Christy perform an ultrasound scan. And it basically showed them say that there is no baby. That baby is a ghost. You know what I'm saying? Some frigging thing going on right here. Now, Donna mourns Dale, right? While entubing his body, right, with the rocks, because there's nothing you can do. They in the middle of the wall, in a pool, you know what I'm saying? Might as well you just basically just cover it up, you know what I'm saying? And not have it out there showing to the world, right? And it kind of looked very intimidating to have him out there like that. Yeah, probably that's what the town intended. Yeah. Now, Kenny asks to move into Colony House. Victor would have been insisting to go alone, but because Henry basically don't want to lose his son, him just reunited him. Him say, yo, me follow you. Let's go together. Let's do this, right? Let's do whatever you want to do, right? So them explore the tunnels now, and them find Jasper, which is the ventriloquist doll, which would have been belonging to one of the farmer residents, them Christopher. Them end up awakening some of the creatures them and have a flee. Now, Elgin take photos of the Colony House residents, and him have a vision of the Kimono woman. Yeah, she won't leave him alone. And she claims says she can help everyone go home. Where have you heard that before? Yeah, that's sound like a trap. A big one. Now, Jade, him discover say there's a second battle tree where him start to hallucinate about Tom, and discover that the bottles from both of the trees contain the same numbers. There must be a significance with that. Now, Tabitha now asks Jade if she and Ethan can help, but finds that Jade's drawing of the sentiments are similar to her recurring nightmares when she was a child. So that are the last thing in the episode, basically, that they believe with us, that Tabitha has a recurring nightmare as a child of this same place Fromville. Some frigging thing going on. I don't know what. Episode 7. Fatima confesses her cravings to Christy, right? Who believes a boy, she experienced one normal pregnancy, one of them psychosomatics pregnancy, Yeah. Not necessarily normal pregnancy, right? Because if you're pregnant, there's supposed to be a baby, but if there's no baby, it can't be a pregnancy. So it must be in her head. Now, Fatima, she argue and say, yo, listen, me know what me I feel, This a pregnancy, this a belly there here in front of me is real. And boy, craving I get wilder and stronger, and I'm worried that Fatima might threaten Colony House. Donna now attack the boy that tell him say she have to go leave. They can't have her in there because if she attack like this, there have been in situations where persons start to lose them head, you know what I'm saying, and let in creatures at night when them supposed to lock the place. Yeah, so she don't want that to be a thing that happen again. Now, Victor, him become even more obsessed with getting Jasper to talk because in a film head, he must say, we know Jasper can talk and Jasper know things about this place, so more to hear what he have to say. So, Sarah now, him go a Sarah yard, right? Of all the persons, him go to help, right? Elgin now, him camera, we need to have producer Polaroid of the cellar, which him go and investigate, and him find one hidden door, right, with a corpse behind it. This kind of give lost vibes, Yeah, this have kind of a lost vibes. Them go and find one secret or a covered over hatch in the ground on this out in the middle of nowhere. And yeah, it just seemed like one of those things. And I guess because it has inspiration from the Lost series, we're going to get these kind of tropes coming in. So yeah. Now, the cops know him fine behind it now. You know what I'm saying? Kind of look like it's from a particular period. And that's something that has been noticed up so far is that some of the things in From seem to be from different time periods. So it seems like From has been spanning over countless years and decades, Now, Acosta now, she started to question Kenny about the tone, and why it is that the tone is so unbelievably confusing, I guess. And she even tell him, say, why, me not think me feel like I want to trust Boyd, And some weird music starts playing about like hope or something like that play on the diner radio while she's there, which is one of those weird things that happen sometimes. Randomly music that start playing off of the diner radio, and nothing is plugged into a power source. But yeah, that's just weird. Yeah. After that, now she decides that she'll go break into the sheriff's station to retrieve her gun and argue with Sheriff Boyd. So him give her back the gun, unloaded. So the guy no bullet, him say, we will keep the bullet there. You know what I'm saying? But me not trust you with animation. Now, Tabitha, Jade, and Ethan, them travel to the settlement where Jim there get their food, and them find the painted rocks where Tabitha
saw in her nightmares. Can you imagine? That is just freaky. And then Jade now theorized that she was destined to find the township. Now, Randall just decide say, yo, I'm gonna go find something for doing in the meantime. And because him and Julie are move and Julie has not learned to drive, he's gonna teach her how to drive. Right? So, I don't actually understand how him teaching her how to drive would mean anything here, but then I'm guessing it's just some way to kind of take your mind off of the current affairs, the current events, situation that you're in. They find some of the ruins, the same ones that Boyd would have found, where they'd find like the tower with the man in it. And then Ellis now him tell Tilly say that I'm afraid say I'm gonna lose Fatima, right? And Tilly, she said, "Me will help you, basically. Me help in what way I can." Then Fatima now start to experience some intense pain at the greenhouse. And when Tilly go in there now for comfort her, and she turn around and stab Tilly, killing her. Yeah. Episode 8. So Boyd decides, say, after all these events, the best thing to do is to carry her down, that's Fatima, to an empty cabin, right? And if nobody tell nobody really about, to Tilly, right? And the body is discovered, right? By somebody else. Now, Acosta and Kenny start questioning everyone, right? Donna and other of the residents, them now accuse Sarah. Of course, because she's killed in the past, right? The first person you point fingers at is the one that you have seen or heard of done it before, right? Yeah. Poor Sarah. And she this time, Now, Fatima now have a dream while she's alone. A vision of the kimono woman. And Jim angrily confronts Jade at the bar about bringing Tabitha to the settlement. Right? With our way I go on, he must say, yo, you shouldn't be making her. It's almost like he must say, boy, yeah, make her have to relive this thing. And it's almost like, realize we have a family and stuff, I kind of understand what Jim's going through there, but at the same time, remember, say, your wife have autonomy because, she basically was the one who went to Jade anyways, right? Which is something that is explained after that. Now, Henry, him using past experiences, while he's hungover to help Jim to calm down, right? Now, Ethan and Julie, them explore the ruins a little more, where she basically find herself in the dungeon where Martin is around the same time that Sheriff Boyd would have been in the mine shaft. So now we get to see from that angle what really took place it was actually Julie who was there, who threw down the rope to Sheriff Boyd. That was a great revelation, which something that was a theory that was being swirling up to this point is that something about time in this place, in the Farmville. Yeah, because the fact is, at this point, she would have left there. So it's almost like her mind traveled into the past. So what we would be seeing would be just what we think Julie looks like, but Julie could be in a body of somebody else. Or it could be a case where that Julie is a different Julie from the one that embarked went into that tower. Anyways, while she is with her brother, because it seems to happen at the same time, she's experiencing a seizure. So she's in that place, probably, I don't know, in the past, basically, but her mind is there and her body is experiencing a seizure. So this is something that is quite the revelation. So apparently all this time, Victor did think that why it was Jasper who was talking, and you need to get Jasper to talk to tell him what was happening. But actually it was the boy in white who was talking to Christopher, right? And he was basically explaining to him about the origins of the butter tree, which inadvertently would have caused Miranda's death, because Miranda would have figured out, hey, we need to get to the tree and stuff. And while she was going there, one of the creatures took her, killed her. That is after Victor would have told her about that. So Victor would have overheard the conversation, and then him go tell him mother, and then his mother end up dead. Now, after all of this happened, now Sheriff Boy decided to tell Donna that Fatima killed Tilly. I don't know why I'm do that, but right now she is afraid like everybody else, because she believes that Fatima get dangerous now, Yeah, that, the danger is present, and that's kind of true, because you don't know what she will do. You don't know in this state, what can happen. Now, Elgin, him follow some instructions, some visuals from the Polaroids where he produced the camera, right? And him find the cabin, which by now Ellis would have, later now find empty, because Elgin now would have taken Fatima from there to the cellar and trap her behind the hidden door. Yeah. Episode 9, right? And this is 9 and 10 is a two-parter. It's called Revelations. So you have chapter 1, which is 9, and chapter 2, that's 10, right? Now, Ellis and Boyd now, them start get worried because they wonder where Fatima could be, because they believe now, say Fatima let herself out and stuff, and thing. Boyd start to have one freezing episode, right? And basically, him have to stop, While Elgin would have been there, he starts to feed Fatima his blood. And of course, she have no choice because she's hungry to accept it, right? And of course, this is part of the plan, I guess, for the pregnancy to proceed more rapidly. So the boy in white have to stop Victor now, because Victor decides he will go chop down the butter tree, right? Sarah hallucinate the voices, and she tell Boyd, say that the voices claim that Fatima has little time left. So it's kind of weird. There is the kimono woman that is getting Elgin to do all of these things, and yet still there are some voices that are talking to Sarah, telling her that she has little time left, as if there is some kind of good and bad. But kind of, I've been theorizing around the boy in white and what he represents. It kind of have that white nature, of course, because he's white, dressed in white and all of that. And then the darkness, or the evil, is represented by another entity, the way how things are set up, right? The voice on the phone. So at this point now, may I think to myself, say, these forces are in complete opposition, either that or there is a greater scheme at play. And why I think that is because of what Sheriff Boyd's wife, or the aberration that looked like his wife, they'd said to him at the end of season 2 that the tone feeds on your hope. So it's not on suffering, but on your hope. So the more hope you have is the more it's going to feed on you. So it might just be trying to keep you hopeful while using that to its advantage to feed on you. So when it feeds on you, that's where the suffering comes. Yes, you expect something like this from these series. Makes you think. Anyways, so because Donna realized, boy, everybody in our town respect and love Fatima because she's a nice girl, other than she was having this pregnancy and it kind of, but she was always nice to everyone. So say, all right, let us try and find her. So them organized the search party, pairing off people to go and find, while looking around and stuff. So Boyd now tell Kenny that we realize that the Parkinson now a progress and Kenny need to be ready for take over leadership, when things go south. Now, of course, that's not something where Kenny really want to hear at that point, but yeah. Elgin now, while him one of the persons who is looking for Fatima, and he knows where Fatima is, he's not really concerned about looking for Fatima. He's trying to calm down Ellis and convince Ellis maybe Fatima disappear for a good reason. And you mustn't worry yourself. Now, if anybody tell me that, if my wife gone missing and somebody start to tell me them someday, you know what me I gonna do with them? That is the same thing when Ellis say. Tell me where she there. Cause you must know something what me don't know. Cause we can't be here. I'm very suspicious of him right there. So I'm like, you see me? Him just go straight up to him and ask him, what you know? So while Fatima there now, she find one hidden hatch on the floor. But the kimono woman, she does appear in her room to her hold Fatima down to keep her quiet. Because them come close to where Fatima is, And if only Fatima can make noise. Wow. Now, Tabitha, she have one vision of one of the children who she and Julie they follow in the cellar. Then them find Victor inside and Tabitha have one vision of Miranda's death. And that, of course, set her off. Yeah. So, episode 10, Revelations, chapter 2, right? So, Ellis now, I try to get Elgin to tell Fatima's location. So, by them confine Elgin to Colony House and prepare for interrogate him, Yeah. Probably waterboard him, whatever they plan to do. Then Elgin confess say him talk to the kimono woman and she convinced him about the baby that Fatima carry so that it will free them. Now Victor take him father to Miranda's gravesite and him basically break down and tell him, say, boy, him feel guilty about her death and, feel fault and all of those things. Of course, him father not really that take him at that became I said, boy, you can't blame yourself, man. Them thing. Now, boy, him confront Elgin alone and, tell everybody if he step outside because him gonna do some serious damage. Smash him right finger with a hammer, right? And of course, Elgin a ball out and think everybody are like, no, you can't do that and ray. So while everybody downstairs are deliberate, Sarah, she comes in and she decides that she going to torture Elgin in her way. So she take a screwdriver and she go in and take out him left eye. Yeah, she took out his left eye. I'm telling you, this is dangerous. This is, I told you it was graphic. Yeah. And he basically give up the location of Fatima. So while Fatima that they are now are going to labor, the kimono woman, help her to give birth. And just as Fatima push out Sinton, because we don't even see a baby, we just see something come out, and kimono woman grab it up and disappear down the hatch, the same hatch where she stopped her from going down. Boyd and Ellis them arrive just in time to see Fatima with no belly. So, of course, this reinforces the fact that all these things was happening. I was only hearsay. Fatima seemed like one mad woman, But, of course, Fatima would reveal that the creatures, them gain immortality by sacrificing their children. So this is something else that came out of this now. So, Boyd now him decides him to investigate down the hatch alone. And he comes upon several creatures standing in a circle around the kimono woman. And the kimono woman put on the amniotic sac, the thing will come out of Fatima. And it starts to enlarge and it, rips apart, stretches and rips apart. And it's the birth or the rebirth of the smiley creature. You remember that one that was killed by Jim? Sorry, not Jim. It was Boyd. His blood? Yeah, that one. Now, Jim and Tabitha and Jade, them discover that the numbers from the battle tree, they are not like dates or, years or not like that. They actually refer to musical notes. I don't know how they get to figure it out still, right? But after that, them play the music at the battle tree and it seems to summon the children who would have helped Tabitha to escape. And Jade and Tabitha remember them past selves, them past lives, that Tabitha was Miranda and Jade was Christopher, and they would have both died trying to save the children. Yeah. So Jim now, while him there out in the wilderness there, Julie appears distressed, right? And then one mysterious man in yellow him confront them and him rip out. I told this graphic, guys. Rip out Jim's throat. Yeah. That's how the series ends. The season ends.
So here are my theories about unresolved mysteries and plot points, including favorite moments. Alright, so let's begin. So there is a lot of theories around the nature and the origin of the town, and I guess the leading theory posits that there's some kind of pocket dimension or interdimensional gateway, right? So it's disconnected from the normal reality, and that is why, for some reason, you have so many different ways person can enter so many different times in history, periods in history that persons would have ended up being there, right? Another theory is that it's somehow some kind of cursed land or some ancient ritual that has been done, and it might have been a failed or sinister ritual in the past. And the fact that you have so many children and, sacrificial imagery, there are some supernatural elements to the town, and it would support the idea that this evil force or this Asian curse keeps the cycle, going. The boy in white and the children. Some persons are, theorizing that the boy in white is perhaps a former Ankoi child, right? So it might have been one of those emaciated looking, pickaninny at one point, but for some reason he might have been able to transition or, change his look, right? And maybe he was actually saved by Miranda, right? Who was trying to rescue the children. So the theory is that each person can save at least one child, and perhaps that boy in white is just helping now, paying it forward. And that's probably why he's trying to get Victor and Tabitha to remember, using Ankui, remember. Another theory is that he's somehow some kind of shape-shifting entity, and it could be that the boy in white is also Jasper, right? The ventriloquist doll. Even though this one is kind of a letdown, because we later find out that it's because Victor's memory is kind of flawed, and they make the point to show that it is flawed, that Victor would have been thinking that all this time it was the doll that was talking, or remembering it as if the doll was talking and he need to get the doll to talk, but it was actually the boy in white. Or maybe, just maybe, there's some kind of perception filter that's causing him to think that way. Tabitha's connection and the nature of her escape. So it's possible that Tabitha's nightmare is a memory, right? Tabitha is having these recurring nightmares, and probably those are actually repressed memories of her visit to the town. And this is supported by the fact that we realize that, persons have been, able to travel, through time in certain instances, and that would support some of the other things that we've been seeing, right? Perhaps death is the only way to escape the town. And, to actually leave the town, you have to die or be in a near-death experience. And so that's why Tabitha ended up coming back to the town, because it is through that way that everyone would have to go. But at this point, persons might not be willing to believe her because of all of the other things happening, right? And the fact that the boy in white said, when he was pushing her, he said, this is the only way, Now, the town's purpose and its rules. And I did talk about this before, that, in some ways we think it's purgatory or some kind of psychological trial. The fact that it's forcing the residents to confront some of them deepest fears and regrets, remembering some of the things that they did in their life previously. The town seemed to actively punish or derail anyone that gets too close to finding out something or the truth, and these things, things that start to happen, some supernatural things like the weather change and all of that, it just makes things just set into place that way. Perhaps we're not supposed to be finding any answers, the persons in the town, right? That each time they seek answers to the questions, something happens, right? Like when boy get an infection after him explore the catastrophic, um, you know, stuff, the storm that derailed that whole experiment with the radio tower. So it's almost like the tone of this desire to keep it secret and will only allow escape or resolution when people accept them situation or confront them personal truths. So, as I said before, the nature of the town, it could be a pocket dimension, a cursed land, or interdimensional gateway. The boy in white, it could be a former uncoy child or a shape-shifting entity, maybe Jasper, maybe. Tabitha's escape, death or near death, is the only way out. And it's possible that nightmares aren't nightmares, but they're actually memories that she might have repressed. The purpose of the tone, it could be purgatory or some kind of psychological trial, not meant to be solved. Fatima sickness is the result of a supernatural infection passed via blood transfusion. The time loops, reincarnation. So several persons have, experienced some kind of time thing going on, whether it be going back in time or something happening and, reoccurring stuff, giving like a cyclical nature to time that is in a loop. The music box, Boy's Blood, these are some of the key supernatural triggers with some very unknown consequences of the tone. So yeah, those are some of the theories and possible explanations. What are your theories? Share your theories, whether you think that you agree with some of my theories, whether you think there is, some alien connection to this thing, because that's another thing that I was considering as well. But the prevailing theories out there are the ones that I have mentioned. But you can mention yours, leave them in the comments. So in this episode, we looked at From Part 2, diving deeper into the darkness of the unknown. And what a deeper, dark place we have found ourselves in. Because you want to say, while I was going through the episodes and I'm like, I can't believe that we are at this point where I can just say, boy, this doesn't seem like the series is already for done, right? Which, if you know me, I like, a good series that has mystery and it can, engage you. And, there are some resolutions, but, sometimes those resolutions can turn out to be a misdirection. But I'm hoping that we get to see the connection that is between all of these characters, and especially with some of the plot devices, the creatures, because in a time like this when you're bombarded with so much information about all of these things and you can just get information about these things, you can instantly, find out about different concepts. Sometimes just to throw yourself into something that is perhaps fun and interesting is what you need. You need a reset. And that is what this podcast aims to do, is to provide a reset for you, dear listener, so that you can understand through the lens of
the hosts. You can learn about some of these concepts that could possibly be related to reality. Now, this particular series, unless you're on LSD, some of these things would not really happen. And this series wouldn't have been perhaps as enthralling and interesting as it was if it wasn't for COVID-19, because it was written during the pandemic, right? It was something that, just consider the facts about you couldn't leave the town, you can't leave your house. Those were the kind of concepts, right? But what happens if you do? And we got to see that happening in season 2 ending, and what happened in episode 1 and 2, following what would have happened. The revelation would have come full circle to say, hey, they were actually in the real world, but then something happened. Yeah, something happened. They were distracted, right? Because everything did plug in, ready to go, but it was just only for a time, because it just meant that she had to be there. Tabitha had to be in the town for things to progress the way they have. It's sad though that just right after Tabitha and Jim get back together, that things happen the way they did. I know we are focused on figuring out who the hell is this man in yellow. What is his deal? Yeah, that's it. And that's a wrap on this episode. We're on our way to 1,000 downloads. Thank you for being a part of this journey. If you've enjoyed the ride, be sure to follow, like, and share. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one.